Hello and a very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching India Fights Back with your host, Kriti Mishra. Union Health Ministry has finalized arrangements with Hyderabad-based vaccine manufacturer Biological E to reserve 30 crore of COVID-19 vaccine doses. These vaccine doses will be manufactured and stockpiled by Biological E from August to December 2021. This has been undertaken as part of Government of India's Mission COVID Suraksha, the Indian COVID-19 vaccine development mission, which was launched to reinforce and accelerate COVID-19 vaccine development efforts as part of the third stimulus package, Atmanirbhar Bharat 3.0. The center has said that nearly 12 crore doses of vaccines will be available in June this year for the national COVID vaccination program. The ministry has said that availability of vaccines for the entire month of June has been provided well in advance to states and UTs by the union government. And for deeper insights on this, I'm joined by very eminent guests on the panel. Joining me on the show today, Professor Narendra Kumar Arora, Chairman, COVID-19 Working Group of NTAGI, and Dr. Raman R. Gangakhetkar, Member, National Task Force for COVID-19. Welcome to Sunset TV, both of you. And Professor Arora, coming to you first, vaccine doses will be manufactured and stockpiled by Biological E from August to December 2021. Another important step in India's vaccination drive, sir. Your opening comments.
Priti, these vaccine doses and this manufacturing capability has not come overnight. This is country's sustained focus and investment on R&D and development of infrastructure, creating an ecosystem so that indigenous vaccine is coming. So after Covaxin, which came up with the support of ICMR, this is the other vaccine which has come up with initial support for R&D from Department of Biotechnology, BIRAC. It has been provided support for doing the clinical trials. And today we are in such a happy position. The results are very exciting. It's a recombinant vaccine and something which has been hailed elsewhere. Novavax is one which, in fact, Serum Institute is also going to manufacture, but it is at the same level. So it's a matter of great pride, but it also shows long-term vision of the country, investing in R&D, investing in developing and creating an ecosystem where vaccines can be manufactured and are developed and then manufactured. This vaccine development and manufacturing is a rocket science in pharmaceutical. And Biological E, this example is one of theirs. Covaxin is another example. And I think we should feel very proud about that.
We should feel very proud about that. And as you said, sir, that this doesn't come overnight. Dr. Raman Gangakhetkar, Department of Biotechnology, has not only provided financial assistance in terms of grant and aid of over 100 crore, but also partnered with Biological E to conduct all animal challenges and assay studies. Clearly, sir, a very important move to reinforce and accelerate COVID-19 vaccine development efforts of India.
That's true. I think one of the features that we must laud is what we are currently doing is investing in different platforms. Now, we already have adenovirus-based platform which is available. We already had inactivated platform, whole virion inactivated platform from Covaxin. Now we have protein subunit vaccines, which would be also a remarkable addition for us because Novavax was also producing one. This one is slightly different. It tends to work against it works against the RBD, receptor binding domain. And this vaccine was being developed to fight against SARS. So there is one small hope that one would have. Would this eventually come out as a pan-corona vaccine is something which we may have to see over in near future as such, because essentially, where should this vaccine development stop? It should stop at a time point when you would have a pan-coronavirus vaccine, which will prevent not only SARS-CoV-2, but SARS. It would also prevent MERS and other viruses that could come even from the stable of coronaviruses per se. So this is one which has been found in the preliminary studies. They found that it has very high immunogenicity, and perhaps it has certain advantages beyond spike protein being included totally, or other subunits from the spike protein, excepting that which they have used as anti-RBD. And this is yeast cell derived protein. So you would always have a capacity to scale up very quickly, because this approach tends to work really best at this juncture. If your phase 1 and 2 trial results were good, then it is more likely that it may follow the same example as other vaccines in terms of protective efficacy. And we must welcome the move of the center, that they have already booked 30 crore dosages from this vaccine, which is a new technology which will perhaps prove itself being useful. We should wish that it becomes a pan-coronavirus vaccine.
All right, sir, you made two very important points about technology and expansion. Professor Arora, would it be easier for us now to scale up our capacities?
As basically, if I understand correctly, that you are asking about the total vaccine availability in the country. And
yes, and also the protein. Yes, sir.
So this one highlight of this particular protein subunit vaccine is, if you price is very less. It's one of the cheaper vaccines. 2, very effective. Third is scaling up is much easier. And the fourth one, which the point I want to make, is that vaccine accessibility this is one direction. DBT, ICMR, and other scientific organizations have invested heavily since March 2020, and we are seeing the effects. This is one of them. The other is Cadila Zydus also has been come up with because of this. mRNA vaccine will come up. So, and ultimately, I think we should have very easily 30 to 35 crore doses per month, and so that we can immunize our whole population without difficulty, uninterrupted manner. And as I've been saying, the key issue will be now, how does community come forward and accept it readily?
Absolutely, sir. And as you're talking about immunizing our entire population as soon as possible. And there's another important development, which is India is also engaged with the US manufacturers like Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson for COVID-19 vaccines. Dr. Ganga Khetkar, government is separately engaged with US administration to ensure that necessary components and raw materials for vaccine manufacturing and production in India are readily available. How do you assess this move, and how do we further ensure that there are no supply chain disruptions?
Yeah, if you read the news items that have emanated from discussions of Honorable Prime Minister and Vice President of USA, Mrs. Harris, no, one thing which is emerging is US has changed certain clause by way of which now imports of these extremely critical either equipment or supplies that you need would be facilitated, which would essentially have two implications. One, perhaps we might have uninterrupted supplies because everything would be available here, because there are no restrictions for us to import. And the second thing which is also important is, if we want to scale up and would like to have different bioreactors, for like you require one for Covaxin, they will be able to scale up mainly because these equipment would be available, which otherwise were not available. So to me, this is a comprehensive kind of approach that Government of India is adopting. It's not only trying to build in capacity, but it is also trying to ensure that vaccines that could be available from other countries are also being imported. You raise the internal, produce more vaccines, and you have vaccines that come from different platforms, so that their scalability can be adjusted in the right manner to ensure that you will be able to provide vaccines to everybody. To me, one needs to understand one thing, that when you roll out vaccines or when you want to implement any strategy, no, there would be some challenges which come suddenly as unforeseen challenges, and then you need to tackle them. So we had some kind of issue in terms of vaccine dosages. Now we will have to try and ensure that whatever the promise that has been made, that you would have the entire country immunized by December 2021, you would use all other interventions which will ensure that such challenge does not exist as the time proceeds ahead. I think people should have some confidence that it is possible that we could ramp up our ability to even provide vaccines every day very, very rapidly to the population. The numbers could be very high, and reduce the ability to ensure that you perhaps spend little time compared to what otherwise we would have had envisaged in the entire rollout. So essentially, we may have a compressed timeline, but in order to handle that compressed timeline, all comprehensive steps have been taken. Now we need to be little patient and follow COVID appropriate behavior, because it has 85% protective efficacy. You don't need to worry if you adhere to this COVID appropriate behavior, and let's hope everything clicks really well.
Let's hope that everything clicks really well. But there's another important aspect, Professor Arora, that we keep talking about on the show also and otherwise also, which is about wastage. Now, states have again been requested by the center to ask the concerned officials to ensure rational and judicious utilization of allocated doses. Now, there are reports here and there about wastage of vaccines once again. How do we ensure zero wastage going ahead, sir?
So, vaccine wastage during a national program where mass immunization is going on does occur. I think we have to accept that. And in the current program, the program had built in 5%, up to 10% also. But states, I would rather look at how there are some states which are having a wastage of 2%,
Yes.
2.5% or 3%. I think they are an example how efficiently use whatever is available to me and maximize this scarce commodity. It is both scarce as well as expensive. These are one of the most expensive vaccines. So there are these states which are still having 11, 15%, and there were some times where up to 20% wastage was there, which is obviously is very worrisome. But I would now say the states who are having wastage of around 2-3%, they should be highly appreciated, and they should set an example how they are able to manage vis-a-vis rest of the states where they are not able to do it. Because benchmarks have certainly come down. When we started the program, it was 10%. Then it was said, okay, let's make it 5%. And now I see 2 to 3% program wastage. So I would really look at this, and it appears that with the right intention and right management plan, we can reduce the wastage to 2 to 3%, which is credible, and one should appreciate all these frontline workers who are doing that.
So, right management plan, I just want a clarity on that. What do you mean by that? What is the lesson from these states that you said that the other states need to adopt?
So I think the most important thing is that the people who are going to attend the session on a particular center on that particular day is meticulously planned. So that I have 10 vials, I need to immunize 100 people or whatever that the number of people. And I ensure that there should be maybe over the time, we know what is likely to be dropout and call that many extra. Because wastage primarily occurs that suddenly at 2:30, you have to close the clinic at 3 or 4, and you find still I have 3 half vials or 2 half vials are lying down, and that is wastage. So planning is such. It is just like, I think, it may look a very crude example. You go to a restaurant or to a halwai shop, he knows exactly by the end of the day, I have this much clientele, and they don't let the wastage be done. I think that kind of a rustic approach is required so that we call some extra people, we know some dropout will be there, so that minimal wastage. You are smiling.
No, sir, I like that analogy, sir.
So that's what I meant by management, micromanagement. I think it's a booth level management.
Yes, sir. So astute planning is required. But another important aspect, Dr. Ganga Kedkar, is about children. Now, all of us are talking about the possible third wave and whether or not it will impact our children. We don't really know. We don't have mathematical models that suggest that. During the second wave and also during the first wave, there was no significant incidence of COVID-19 infection towards the younger individuals. Now, going ahead, of course, we understand that there are trials for vaccines for children in India as well. So what is your assessment? By when do we have a vaccine for children, and how safe, and what about the efficacy of such vaccines?
In the first place, I would say we should reduce our level of panic that we are introducing in the population. Now, if I am going to be in a position within next 6 months' time to vaccinate all those who are 18 years plus, prioritizing the 45 years plus population, there will be a huge indirect effect that you would see in terms of protection of children. Because it is essentially, if a larger section of the society, especially adults who move around, then in those cases, perhaps these issues tend to be far lesser. That's number one that I would say. The second issue which I would say is whether third wave affects children, it doesn't affect children, is a matter of discussion, scientific debate. To me, it may not happen so badly as it is being projected. But it is good to be prepared to meet such a contingency. Now, do we have such vaccines? Yes. If you actually look at Covaxin, they have reduced their age group up to which they can provide this vaccine, and they are already conducting a trial for seeing the efficacy and toxicity of this particular trial in population that is children. You look at two vaccines which the country is also planning to import, the ones like Pfizer and Moderna, which have already been approved for pediatric usage, though their ages are restricted. If that is the worry, then perhaps we may be able to ensure that you may provide those vaccines which are approved for children to begin with. But would that opportunity ever, would such a thing be required to be thought of? To my mind, no. No, what people have observed is just that younger age population is coming more often. One must also remember that you had 45 years plus program for vaccination. And when you vaccinate population, whether people like, whether they accept, whether they don't accept, the reality is there is an effect in terms of number of people who were older who would get infected, and your base suddenly denominator tends to change, your universe tends to change, and in the hospitals you start seeing the younger population which you had not seen earlier, and that's something which is a feature that tends to come up. But would that necessarily mean is that virus changing towards younger population? I think these are too speculative kind of statements which should not be made. To my mind, we don't need to worry in terms of vaccination excessively about the children. The government is capable of handling the situation as it arises, but I would worry more of having a good coverage in 45 years plus and then 18 to 45 years population, and that may resolve my problems as much as possible. You would have other vaccines which would also have pediatric approvals that may come. We do not know which ones would get the approvals over a period of time through different regulators, but I don't see it as a major issue. What we must do is keep faith in the government government will be able to ensure adopt right kind of strategies.
All right, so government will be able to ensure and adopt right kind of strategies and with a very calibrated approach. But time for closing comments from both my guests. Professor Arora, vaccination is an integral part of the comprehensive strategy of the government, along with, of course, test, track, treat, and COVID appropriate behavior. Your closing comments, sir.
So the country is getting completely geared, and it is not based on assumptions. Vaccine is an integral and one of the most solid pillars of control of corona. And now, very soon, this relative difficulty in getting the vaccines should be over. And by the end of the year, we should be able to immunize our population. And this is not based on assumptions. These are actual projections. And we would like to convince people that they should come forward, because now it is their duty. Today, there were 45,000 centers, but we have the capacity to have 100,000 immunization centers, and each center can at least immunize 100 people. So 1 crore people can be immunized without difficulty in this country. And we would request everybody to come and get immunized. And I hope, as Ganga was saying, that toward the end, we may be able to immunize children as well.
All right, as you said, we'll be able to immunize our entire population, and this is just not assumption. This is based on pure projections that are based on data and, of course, the numbers. Dr. Raman Khedkar, your closing comments, sir.
What I would say is, no, don't panic. You have to take vaccine when you are going to get it. What is most important is, please try to follow the most important preventive tool, that is COVID appropriate behavior, until the time you get vaccine. And please also ensure that you will continue to follow these COVID appropriate behaviors even if you get vaccinated. Please remember, people tend to worry whether newer variants will come and will affect the efficacy of these vaccines. Please don't ever worry. If you follow COVID appropriate behavior, if you take vaccines, vaccines will prevent deaths. Your COVID appropriate behavior, along with support from the vaccine, will prevent even the infections that can occur. So just trust yourself first, that prevention is also in my hand, and also trust the government that vaccines would be available. Now it's my duty to go and take the vaccine.
Yes, sir, it is our duty to go and get vaccinated. On that note, thank you so much for joining us on the show, Professor Arora and Dr. Ganga Khedkar. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, that's all we have for you in this edition of India Fights Back. But before that, let me remind you once again to stay safe from the coronavirus pandemic, and remember to wear a face mask and wash your hands and face regularly, and ensure that you maintain physical distancing whenever you're stepping outside. Remember, these simple precautions are all it takes to defeat this pandemic. Take very good care and goodbye.